Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we finally got to Frank Miller's 300.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you might remember from the greasy abs of I think was it 2006
Gerard
or whatever,
Butler, yeah.
of Gerard Butler's greasy abs and everybody else in that too. That movie 300 that came out in mid 2000s. This is the comic that's based off of. So, and me and John were talking about this earlier. There was like a weird in the mid 2000s, they were trying to still figure out exactly how to make comic book movies. And so, like, Sin City came out. I guess it's just mainly Frank Miller movies, but
How do we do Frank Miller?
Yeah, how do we do a Frank Miller comic?
People love these. How do we make them?
Yeah, like there's a lot of cool shots that are pretty much laid out for us in the comic, so we can just
They
shot for shot.
storyboarded this movie for us.
Yeah. I mean, they just storyboarded it. So, like, just shot for shot, do that, and then just have a lot of narration like Frank Miller likes to have. So, which I was telling John is funny. If you think about it, if you watch that without sound, there's like literally nothing going on in the picture. Like it'll just be like for Sin City, Bruce Willis would just be staring weird, and then there's narration going on. But if you were deaf or you didn't have the sound on and no captions, you wouldn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it would just be funny. It would just be a funny I don't know, like scene. And same with this. In 300, it would just be like lots of oily men standing or posing or killing. And then there's all this narration going on, but you don't know unless you have the closed captions on. So it's a very interesting way to approach a Frank Miller comic for a movie, but I guess that sets it apart, right? There's only like two of those. There's Sin City and 300. So, yep. Yeah. But had you read this before?
No, I had never actually read it. I've seen the movie, but
Okay. I wasn't sure if you had read it or not, but this came out from Dark Horse in 1998. It was a 5-issue limited series, and this is very creative. It's the only comic I know that's done like this. But unlike every other comic where they use each page individually to tell the story, every page of this comic is actually a double page spread. So you have to fold the comic out flat on each. Every page turn is like one giant page, basically. And so, I guess you could think of it like the page count is cut in half, because every page is 2 pages, basically. So
I was wondering about that because as I'm reading it, so I am reading it digitally too,
right?
And all my comics I read, like a normal comic page. And this one I turned up, and I had seen the book in
you have to flip it sideways.
I was like, oh, that's right, I gotta flip this sideways because it's like widescreen format or whatever. But
yeah,
it was because it took up both pages as one panel of one page of the comic. So
yeah,
cool.
So it's like a double page spread. Each page of this comic is a double page spread of a regular comic. Kind of thing. Like a splash page or whatever. But
yeah, every page is a splash page.
Yeah, and it's fucking amazing. I mean, I really like this
the art in this
comic a lot.
Is wonderful.
So, and the interesting thing we were talking about is, so this is only 2 years before The Dark Knight Strikes Again, which is the controversial sequel to Dark Knight Returns. This has the same colorist as Dark Knight Strikes Again and Dark Knight Returns, but there's very much it's Lynn Varley for all those who know. The Frank Miller and Lynn Varley work very well together, but their early stuff, Lynn Varley's painting with watercolors or whatever she uses on paper, and then like later on she does digital stuff like in Dark Knight Return or Dark Knight Strikes Again. So that's kind of like the contrast in Frank Miller's style, I guess. Like that, this is the line between. This is like the last thing he did that was like his old style, and then he's got his new style in 2000 when Dark Knight Strikes Again came out.
Yeah, and we're talking about it, and it seems like the only real pinpoint we can find is that switch to digital.
Yeah. I literally think it's just digital coloring makes Frank Miller look starkly different. Like I can't find any other reason why. Even we were looking at the sequel to this book, which we're going to do next week, called Xerxes, and it has digital coloring, and you can tell. I mean, the art is almost the same. He's drawing the same, but the colors look totally different. Like the feel of it is different, you know? So I think that's like the big thing that people don't like about Frank Miller's art now is that it's digitally colored, and he seems a little bit more sketchier in the digital realm as opposed to on ink and paper.
That's true. These kind, they feel very like crisp and like just beautifully done. And then some of that digital one, it seems almost like some of it is like an early sketch or an early, like not unfinished piece. Sometimes.
Right.
So,
and I don't know if that's specifically because his style is changing, or he maybe only in digital he likes to do this or that. I don't know. It's interesting. I would like to
maybe we'll have him on one day.
Yeah, maybe we'll have. Yeah, I'll call him up. We'll invite him. I would like to pick his brain about that. But
Frank Miller, if you listen to
you
this,
know what? I bet Frank Miller doesn't want to talk about how people hate his new style or whatever, though. But you know,
well, we don't want to talk about.
I don't hate his.
I
new
don't
style.
hate it.
I want to know what
different.
changed. Yeah, I want to know what the difference was and what caused the change.
The people are clamoring to know, and we just want to get it to the masses.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, one day we'll have him on. You know, we're all friends. I'll ask him when we go get coffee this week.
Okay.
I'll double check. But yeah. So if you've seen the movie 300, you've pretty much read the comic. There's a little bit of differences.
There's a little, but I that was one last thing from comic to movie wise. We'll say, and this specifically from me not having read this beforehand. And I haven't watched it recently, but still, like reading this, I was like, "Oh man, I remember like some of these panels very vividly." And I was like, "This must be probably one of the closest, as far as accuracies of comic to screen, probably done." And that's probably again, just like we were saying, like it's basically storyboarded out already too.
Right.
So it was really cool to see. Like I was like,
well, and the cool thing is like Frank Miller's dialogue specifically.
"Oh yeah, that's right."
Okay, there's two you were talking about. There's two amazing scenes in the movie that you're like, that has to be from just the movie.
Yeah,
like there's no way that our screenwriter didn't write that line. And we were reading this comic, and those fucking lines are in this comic. I'm like, he fucking nailed it, and shot almost exactly the same way too. Same choreography and everything. This is Sparta. You might remember when fucking Leonidas comes out and kicks that goddamn Persian messenger in the well. It looks exactly the same Spartan kick, same form and everything.
Yep.
And he even says, "This is Sparta." So like, he doesn't yell it like Gerard Butler necessarily. There's no exclamation mark, but he definitely says, I think it's like narration or whatever, just as "This is Sparta" or whatever, you know, like hardcore. But yeah, I mean, it was fucking awesome that that was in the book. And then also there's another scene.
Yeah, there's a scene where like things are going down, and they're basically like, "Okay, well, this is it." So he's like, you know, get ready or whatever, you know, have your breakfast and stuff, because tonight we dine in hell.
Yeah, and that's totally a movie line.
Yeah, and it's in the comic.
Frank Miller fucking wrote that shit. So, I mean, say what you will about Frank Miller, almost every book we've read from him is at least readable and fun, if not like the best thing ever. Like, you know, Master Race, I thought had its flaws, but it was great. Like, it was fun to continue the story of, you know, everybody.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
And same with like Last Crusade. The only one I didn't like out of all those was the newest one, the political one, whatever that one was called. I can't remember what it was called. Golden Child, yeah. So other than that, the other ones are, I mean, yeah, they have different art or whatever, but like they still felt like Frank Miller. They still felt like they were in the universe. I think he gets a lot of flack right now, just, I don't know, because people remember how good he was back in the 80s or some shit, but it's like you know, people grow with him, man. Like,
people change.
Yeah, people change. So, but for sure, 300 is one of his best, I think, comics. If the movie had never come out, I think this would have got kind of lost in the comic book archives or whatever, just because it's not like, I think people who know about it would know about it, and maybe it would get some play just because it is Frank Miller. But I don't think people would like be able to read it and go like, "Oh yeah, like this is amazing" or whatever. I mean, it won awards and stuff because of its layouts and everything, and it's good art. But sorry, my dog just mess stuff up. So he's pulling out wires and shit. And but yeah, so this actually won like Eisners and stuff and a bunch of other awards, which it should have. I mean, this was fucking amazing. So I guess we got to talk about the comic itself. so first things first, this is like starts off for all you who don't know, this is based on a true story as far as we know. I mean, it definitely happened, but you know, we're going from like Herodotus's histories from back, 2,000 years ago or whatever. So we know this battle happened, but did it happen like this? We're not 100% sure. And Frank Miller definitely takes his, leeways with certain things, but it stays pretty true to like what the other histories have read and things I've read. And I am a big history person, so I was super into this book when I found it. And so what this is it's about when the Persian army, or the Persians, when they were like kind of taking over the world and becoming like a big power in the world, they started moving west into Mesopotamia and like Greek areas. And so that's like when Greece and them have a battle, or battles, I should say, or start war. And you have the Spartans, who was like a war culture city state, I guess, because Greece back then was a bunch of city states. It was kind of like if all the United States were their own countries.
Yeah.
They're like, we're all America,
Yeah.
but also fuck you, Arizona.
We're all Greeks,
yeah,
but
kind of like how Texas is to everybody else. They're like, yeah, we're part of America, but also
we're Texas.
We're Texas, so go fuck yourself, everybody else. So, but yeah, so it'd be like if Texas had like its own militia or military that we're extra military here, and then you try to go to war with America and you stop in Texas first or something, like you go through the Gulf.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened here. So
not smart.
Yeah, not the smartest move. All right, but yeah, so the Persians try to move in on Greece, and they like send messengers out to be like, hey, like Xerxes is coming, so like if you want to bend the knee. And the funny thing is, I guess they'd already tried like the Athenians or whatever, and the Athenians, who are like the pussies of Greece or whatever. Like at least that's how the Spartan view is.
Yeah, they're very much.
They're like, hey, those art guys over there, those artsy fartsy people.
Yeah.
They didn't bow, so like Spartans can't bow. And that's when the Persians send this messenger to the King Leonidas of the Spartans, and they're like, oh, I guess we have to go talk to this idiot or whatever. And they're like, I if the Athenians aren't gonna kneel, I'm not gonna kneel. And so he's like, let me show you. You want, what is it, land and water or whatever? Want dirt and water.
Dirt and water, yeah. Earth and water.
Earth and water, yeah. And he's like, oh, there's plenty down here in this well. And he's like, that's when he says, this is Sparta. And he fucking Spartan kicks him.
Kicks the messenger in. And then they I guess he brought like a couple guards.
Yeah, the envoy or whatever. They like throw all of those people in the well.
I really have to say, like, specifically in reading it like this, I really like Leonidas's character in general. Like, nobody gets like really hardcore in depth in their character, but I like how he just kind of plays like everything nonchalant until like shit has to go down.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I guess like we can, yeah, sure, like we can talk or whatever. And he's like walking with the messenger, and he's like, you want what? He's like, I don't know, that seems kind of like steep or whatever. But and he's like, actually, didn't you already talk? Yeah, like you said, didn't he already talk to the Athenians?
They said no.
They said no. So
I mean, if they said no, we can't say no. So.
Like, I really like the way he plays everything. It's fun. He's a fun like king character.
Yeah, like he's hiding their badassness or whatever at first, but we see it like in this. Basically, this took place during 480 BC or BCE if you're a new modern person, but at the time this was 480 BC, and so as we know, that means before Christ, John. And so, before current era, if you're a modern new person. And so, this is just like pretty much a badass story about these warriors who reject the Persian offer to kneel before them.
Yeah, we're good.
And they make this a big thing in the comic, and this is probably based on what he read. The books that he read for research for this were very Western centric, I'm assuming. none of it said like the Persian side of this or anything in the books that he had listed for like references in the back.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the books that he read for references.
Yeah, I saw those.
All of them were like the West is great by whatever, or like great Western battles by whatever. So it was like, but he made it very like everybody else in the world is like slave cultures, which wasn't 100% false or anything, but then he's like, and us Greeks are free, which is kind of true-ish, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't like in America we're fucking free or whatever, and like the rest of the world is, some like we only deal with slaves or whatever. Like it was a little bit more complex than that or whatever. But
so
in this book, it's definitely like Western centric or whatever as far as the thought process of the way that Leonidas thinks of it in his head is we're free men. We don't have slaves, even though they did. And then, but like no Greek slaves at least. And Greeks are, I guess that's kind of the Western tradition is if you're a Greek man, you're not a slave. But if you're anybody else or a woman,
well,
yeah, we'll see. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
But yeah, so they make it very clear, like Greece is all about not slaves and freedom and stuff. And these Persians, we don't know about them. They have slaves and whatnot, so they're evil. But so that was kind of like an interesting. This is very like early or like 90s history based or whatever kind of thing. So, but and it's funny to see like the change in the culture of history books since then or whatnot. But yeah, like basically the story is like Leonidas. He's not given permission to go to war, and the way that he's not given permission is, I guess they had to go to an oracle and like have their fortunes divined or whatever, tell them is this a good idea or a bad idea. And this was the thing that was different in the book, or in the book compared to the movie. In the movie, there's like a whole political, what's it called, like sabotage or whatever. Like, yeah, the Senate's like sabotaging him more than the oracles are or whatever. And that there's like this whole Senate backstory to give like, I guess, the people at home something to do in the movie. But like in the comic, they never go back home after they leave Sparta. They like King Leonidas goes to the oracle after he, the Persian messengers come. And he's like, I may have fucked us over, but we'll figure it out. So he goes to the oracle, and the oracle are like these inbred, or not the oracle itself, but there's like these
they're
inbred
like
keepers of the oracle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they keep women and like drug them up to be oracles. And so like,
yeah. And for carnal pleasure, but mainly to be oracles.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they rape the girls, obviously. I mean, there's no slaves in Sparta.
No slaves.
But
yeah, it was very like, okay.
Yeah, well, that's the old way.
Yeah.
But we got to like pay homage to the old way, but like, the new way is no slaves, but the old way, they still have slaves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so they basically, these priests of the old ways take girls from Sparta, raise them to a certain age, I assume, and then get rid of them. But like, they make them oracles by like drugging them, and they have visions, and then they tell you what your future is going to be when you ask them questions. So Leonidas goes there to ask, okay, should we go to war or whatever? And they're like, no, don't go to war. Like your festival of not warring is happening. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like, you know what it's called? Did you write it down?
Yeah, I was trying to remember what I wrote down.
I don't know. It starts with a C. It's not that important, but like, yeah, it's like your festival of, peacetime is coming, and you shouldn't go to war during that. And so, basically, if you do, oh, there it is. It's called Carneia. Yeah, something like that. Or yeah, something like that. And so, if you go to war during and like the festival happens, like if you don't defeat them in time, then like you will for surely lose. So say we all. And so, like, yeah, and like Leonidas is like, well, if I don't go to war, we're not going to have a fucking festival because we're going to be Persians then or whatever. So, like, it's either I go or not. And they're like, well, you can't go to war. And he's like, all right, I won't go to war. I'll just go for a walk with my 300 best men, and we'll go out of town, and I just feel like we'll go north for a bit. And so that's basically what he does. He
that's legitimate. Like this is one of my favorite parts. Again,
it's him like skirting around the law kind of thing.
See, like, where are you going? It's like, oh, we're just we're all gonna strap up and walk this way. And it's like, okay, well, you should definitely take all 300 of your bodyguards with you. And
yes,
like, okay, yeah, we'll just go for a walk north.
Yeah, to the hot gates or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but then like we said, he's like, fuck those oracles, and then we find out, because this is where the betrayal happens. There's 2 betrayals in this book. The first one happens, then it's not in the movie from what I remember, is the oracles, after Leonidas leave, he talks about them liking gold a lot, and you have to bring gold to them to pay for this, to pay the gods for this divination. But then like once Leonidas leaves, there's like a shit ton of gold, and like they're like, we like your Persian gold more, or whatever, you know. So it's basically like they were telling him like, don't go to war because the Persians
paid him off or whatever.
Exactly. So they're full of shit, but you know, Leonidas is more badass than they are. So he's not following your rules, and he finds his way around it. So he takes 300 of his guys to the north to this place called the Hot Gates, which is like basically just like it's where the Persians have to land on this beach, and it's rocky, and there's only one pass. So it's like if they're gonna go through this pass, they have to go through it to get to the rest of Greece. So if we stay here, we'll like use our numbers in this area, because they have to kind of wheedle down as they get into this narrow area. They can't be that full strength right there, right? So they're using like the what's it called, topography or whatever, to their advantage.
Yeah.
And so
because they know, like, so there are 300 Spartans, and well, there'll be some more.
Well, I think there's 7,000 total troops, which is nice that he put that in there.
Yeah.
But like normally you think, oh, it's just the 300 Spartans, but it's actually 300 something Spartans plus all the other, you know, city states sent men as well. And I think it's like 7,000 total.
I think 7,000 total. But that was the one thing, is that like there's still like, even though there's 7,000 of them, there's still like the Persian armies. The saying is
there's millions of them.
There are millions, and it's an army so large that it shakes the earth as they walk, because there's so many.
Yeah, and that makes sense, because there was a lot of them.
Yeah,
but it was like a big epic, you know, battle. Like this was actually happened. At least somewhat of what's told in like Herodotus' histories and whatnot, and from what we can tell on like records and stuff from back then. But you know, it was pretty like an ingenious battle too, like to use the land against your enemy like that. And so, I mean, like I like the way this is paced. Like it's always like day 1, night 1, day 2, night 2. I think there's only 3 days, like 3 total days or something like that.
Yeah.
But like basically the first day is like they get there, and like right away they're introduced to, like, Xerxes sends his messenger to be like, hey,
your last chance.
Yeah, your last chance to give up. And then like they're like, hey, those messengers have been gone for a while. Like, where'd they go or whatever? And then like some men go to find them, and they're just like dead with spears through them. It's like, oh, okay, that's what they.
Yeah, it's a where they call it like a Spartan welcome.
yeah, there you go. And so they're not giving up, and then like we're also introduced to this character. What's his name? I don't know.
Epithet or
Epicles or something like that. I don't know. He's like the deformed soldier.
He's like the Quasimodo-esque soldier.
Yeah, he looks like Quasimodo. And then this is where they kind of say like a little bit of Spartan lore about like when children are born, we inspect them, and if there's any deficiencies, we like throw them off a cliff or whatever, and the babies die, and then like only like the strongest, healthiest born will grow to be Spartans, and that's why they're so badass, because they like will literally throw babies off a cliff.
Yeah,
if they're like,
and the little panel of them showing it throwing a baby off was like, whoa.
And then like even that, you're not even good at that, because like if you're like a weak kid or something, you're gonna lose, and they're just gonna kill you, or like you're gonna die in the trials, they call it, because when you're a kid, they'll send you out to like just into the wilderness and like, well, if you come back, then you're gonna be a Spartan, and so like you have to like fight wolves and shit on your own and all this stuff. So.
Apparently, that's why Leonidas is king, because he was like the greatest of kids that go out and come back.
Yeah, I think they just thought he was dead and he was out for the longest or something, and then he came back with like a wolf skin and was like, I am back.
I am badass.
So that's how.
Oh, sorry, he went out like this and came back a man.
Exactly.
I killed this wolf with my bare hands.
My bare fucking hands. And so yeah, I mean, they're just obviously this book is about how badass Spartans are. So they're going into like this war culture and really emphasizing how badass it is. It's definitely like a glorification somewhat of this like war culture, but it really does feel like, I mean, this is a super masculine book. I think there's only like 2 women in the whole book. No, there's like 4 women in the whole book. One is the Oracle.
Yep.
One is his wife.
Yeah.
And the other 2 are the 2 that seduced the hunchback man. So other than that, there's no other women in this book. They mention a woman, or they mention women once. They say like, if I had known, or like if you think you're just gonna march into Sparta after you kill us, like you'll have like an awakening, because our women, like I could have marched them up here too.
Yeah.
So like he gives nods to them, but
Well, yeah, because they kill. They're gonna kill a bunch, and basically through that they're like, man, you guys are fighting really bad. We could have just marched our women up here.
Yeah. And so I mean, it's definitely a masculine book, but it is based in history, and it's based on a war culture that was real. Maybe not as real as hyperbolic as this or whatever, but exaggerated. But
I was looking at his name again. It's like Ephialtes. It's Ephialtes. And so
let me see. I will read it for you. He says Quasimodo. Where is it on this? Oh, I see it. It's Ephialtes.
Ephialtes.
Yeah,
it's a weird.
Ephialtes.
It's a very distinct name for that time period, and it's definitely not common now.
They're all Greek names from like ancient Greek, so they're all
they mentioned a couple other soldiers throughout this. Like they're not like, there's only one that will really, as far as like, has an importance to the story.
Delos.
But there's Daxios is one, and then there's like Lenonos, or so
there's a lot. There's
several of them, and they all have very Greek names.
Yes,
and you're
and that's the thing. There's narration through all this, and you think it's Leonidas the whole time, but then at the end you realize it's actually, there's a guy named Dilios who's like, through this has boosted the morale of the soldiers by telling stories of like other battles like Marathon and all this stuff. So like he's like the storyteller, and like he actually gets sent away at the very end towards the last battle by King Leonidas. He's like, go tell
of our
story to everybody. So that's how we all know about it, like theoretically in this book, is Dilios told people about it or whatever. So we'll call him, we'll just keep it, well, okay, I'll say Ephialtes, who is Hunchback. We'll call him Hunchback from now. Hunchback is like a soldier. He's got Spartan gear and stuff, but you're like, wait, I thought they just said the babies get thrown out if they look weird or whatever. And so what this guy is his parents loved him so much that even though they were Spartans, they didn't believe in the Spartan way, and so they were like, we have to leave because we love our baby, and he's deformed or whatever. Deformed. And so, or malformed, I'll say. And so they leave, but his dad still teaches him the Spartan way. So like he still trains him, and I'm assuming he's got his dad's armor on and stuff.
Yeah.
And so now that the call to war has happened, this Hunchback guy is like, I will fight for you. And this guy's actually in the movie, and he pretty much looks just like he did in the movie. They tried to be pretty accurate with him, which I was kind of like, man, he could have been him. There's certain things in the movie that I'm like, why did you do that? And why did you do this? Like, they could have made him look more realistic, because in the drawings, it's fine in a comic. But sometimes you need to dumb it down a little bit for the screen so it doesn't look super unrealistic or comic booky. He looked like he looked like a villain from like the Dick Tracy movie or some shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's one thing I do remember in Zack Snyder took some liberties with some of the characters
Yes,
being
this is the
very
thing I didn't like.
over. Yeah, like I remember like some of the people that are with Xerxes, like not fighters, but
You mean
like
knife, big fat knife hands?
yeah, there you go. That was what I was.
Big fat knife hands and goat head man.
Yeah, exactly.
Goat head hookah man. I was like, what the fuck are these things? And there's like literally a goat that has, or a person that has a human body and a goat head smoking a hookah. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And it's just like, it's weird Oriental stuff.
It's Greek, Persian, Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, apparently.
Tales.
So like, yeah, that was one of the weird things. You could have made Hunchback guy look a little bit more humanish, and maybe it would have been more believable or whatever, and then not had weird, fat guy knife hands or whatever. Because he literally is like walking on stumps. He has like stumps for legs, and he's got knives for hands or arms.
Yeah.
And like that's it. I'm like, what the fuck is the point of this guy? And it was to show like, oh, how like exotic, weird shit like Xerxes has or whatever. But like, I'm like, you could just show that by showing all the weird
and showing Xerxes himself.
Yeah, I thought Xerxes looked cool in the movie. They shade like in this book, they did the same kind of thing where he's all in darkness, except you can see all his rings and stuff. So he's always got like a weird shaded like look to him. And they do it in the movie, and it works. It works. And
he's he's a taller, like
he's super tall, and he's super like hello, like deep voice and everything. And even in the comic, they say that too. Like Xerxes literally is like a deep voice, like thundering. It says when he talks and everything, and he thinks he's a god and all this stuff. So, I mean, I think they did a good job with him, with Xerxes himself in the movie. But yeah, like you said. They added stuff to make it more weird, which I'm like, no, like you should in a movie, you should make it less weird from the comic, just to make it a little bit more relatable to the normies, Like I'll buy it a little bit, but even I was like, really, goat head hookah man, like what is going on? So, but yeah, so like day one, this guy, Hunchback guy, comes up and he's like, hey, I want to fight with you, Leonidas, and Leonidas is like, I admire your gumption or whatever, but like you can't fight in the phalanx with us.
It was nice. Well, because he shows up too, because like they're like Leonidas is like, okay, everything's good, right? Like we have the gate, and that's the only way.
There's no way to flank us.
And they're like, I don't think so. And then he comes up and he's like, actually, sir, there's an old goat path you guys might have missed back over here. That's just that's the way they.
Yeah, and so like. That's how they introduce him. Is he's giving good information to the king. King's appreciative, and he's like, "Please let me fight with you." And then they're like, "Well, I mean, you can't, because you can't raise your shield up high enough. Like, I appreciate your heart.
You've got that really big strong arm, and you can stab real well, but you can't lift your shield up past your shoulders.
And like we all work as a unit, and you have to be able to lift up your shield high enough to protect your guy on your left.
Yeah, and that was kind of nice because it kind of explains.
It didn't seem mean or anything. Yeah,
no, he just he explained more like, look, we are one unit, and you protect the man on your left. Like that's how it works. So
I would have been like, if I was Leonidas, I would have been like, thanks for the information. You can fight with the Athenians. So like, you can go protect those assholes over there and make sure they need a Spartan leader or whatever to be with them.
There you go.
Then you give them something to do. But he doesn't do that. He just says like, we can't use you in our own group. And Hunchback takes it bad.
Oh, he
gets all mad. At first he gets mad at himself, like, I'm stupid and ugly and useless. And then like
it's like, no, mom and dad were wrong and Leonidas is wrong.
Yeah, and so then he goes to betray all the Spartans and like shows he goes to the Persians just to be like, I know of a path. And Xerxes is like, let us show you women and gold and not goat-headed hookah smokers. And I was looking for that. I was like, maybe that's in the art somewhere. And I saw no goat-headed man smoking a hookah in the art in this. So, but yeah, like he basically shows him like he seduces him with women and gold and glory, and he's like, I just want one thing on top of all the women and gold is a uniform. So like they're like, okay, we'll put you in
be part of something
a shitty uniform. Yeah, he wants to be, a badass. He's never felt like a badass. He's always probably been made fun of all his life for looking like a big weird hunchback, and so Yeah, like that's all he wants. But in the meantime, while that's going on, the Spartans are kicking everybody's ass. So
Yeah, there's like different waves of things. Like, so there's like another, like we'll call him the mouth of Xerxes comes first, and he's like the last. Like, look, I know those messengers came, but this is your last chance.
yeah,
And he's like whipping his servants there, like
the slaves they're like holding his like because everybody instead of using horses or whatever, everybody just uses human power or whatever
really
to move things.
get some places fast.
Like for example, like Xerxes, and this was in the movie too.
Yeah.
I thought this was cool. So like Xerxes, I'm assuming sits on like a golden throne that is gigantic, and he just has like hundreds of slaves underneath him that lift it on their backs. So all you see is like human legs, and then their like backs are the platforms that this thing sits on. So it's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Very effective way to travel.
Yes, yeah. It's just like, a centipede of humans underneath, and then like, he's able to lift. So everybody kind of travels like that. This messenger did, and they cut off his arm as he's whipping people, and he's like, "You fucking slave owners, like how dare you? We're free men. I don't bow to no slave person or whatever." So, yeah, that's like they basically just throw it back in his face, cut off his arm, and kill all the people.
Yeah,
and then the person's like, "Fine, fuck you. We're going to war." They go to war, they lose.
Yes.
Big time. And it's funny, like, either they push them off the cliff, because like they can't beat the phalanx. And the phalanx is basically like, if you've seen Mighty Ducks, it's the flying V. It is the like everybody lines up with their shields, their big round shields, and they have spears that are like really long. So you can't get to them because they're just moving forward and like stabbing at like 12 feet away. So like you can't get to them except with arrows, and then they can like huddle up in like a turtle shell with their shields while still having the spears out.
Yeah.
So they're like a turtle porcupine or whatever. Like like they're able to beat everybody with, and this was like a real thing. This was like modern. This was like the Blitzkrieg for the Germans, or like this was like modern warfare tactics back then.
They're
like
all protected,
unbeatable,
and yeah.
So this was like if you're gonna beat us, you're gonna beat us because like they're saying we're swarmed with numbers. So like 300 of us can fight off like 12,000 men or whatever kind of thing. So that's basically what Xerxes is trying to do, and it's not working at first. The first day they lose horribly, and the second day too, and they end up like building a wall of like bodies.
A wall of dead bodies.
Yeah, they even said like it's a slippery day today because they're like slipping all over the bloody bodies and everything. It was pretty interesting to see like the way they talked about it, and they even said like the next day, like the elephants, they tried to bring beasts from like other worlds because like Greeks haven't seen elephants before or whatever, and like they bring these elephants, and the elephants are they're clumsy beings on slippery slopes or whatever, and because like the bodies are so slippery, they're stepping on them and slipping and falling into the ocean. So it was pretty awesome, like the way that they showed all the battle scenes. The way these panels are laid out, so much of it is like big splash pages, obviously, and then you get like quick floating panels, or you get like some dialogue between two characters. But for the most part, this is a pretty fast read. You can read the whole book, all 5 issues in like half hour or something.
Yeah.
Like that. So it was pretty fast. I think because it is double page, you burn through it real quick. So just that format. But and like we said, Xerxes looks exactly like he does in the movie, pretty much. So like just really tall. He's got all these piercings and everything all over the place. So I like the way they show him. Just like he's just some weirdo with like a lot of piercings, and he's super tall, and he's like what like. Weird, like he just looks super exotic compared to the Spartans kind of thing. And that's basically what they're showing, is like the Persians have all this weird exotic stuff, which I think is what Zack Snyder was going for
with Goathead.
With Goathead, Hookah Man, and swords, fat guy sword arms or whatever. And that's like what they show him. And then
and it's fun because like they've been getting their ass kicked. So Xerxes comes up to Leonidas, and it's like, it was weird because it was almost like, okay, these guys are pretty powerful. Maybe we can talk one more time. And Leonidas is like, yeah, let's talk. I'll go talk to him. Why not? Let's do this. And then he's like, "Are you sure I can't like bribe you with riches?" I love how they really show like how like big and like dominant kind of he's trying to be.
Yeah, he
and,
puts
like,
his hands on
his shoulders.
His
He's like,
shoulders.
"Hey, buddy," and you sure I can? He's like, "Well, I'd be kind of stupid to refuse that offer, but you can fuck right off."
Yeah, you go fuck yourself.
You go fuck yourself.
And then also it's because they're like winning too.
Yeah.
So it's like Spartans wouldn't do that anyway, but like we're fucking kicking your ass. So why would
have you seen the bayous over here?
Yeah. And so also they show like Leonidas even says like they're like, should you go meet with him, Leonidas? Like, do you think it's a good idea? And he's like, I hope they kill me. If they kill me, that means like Sparta's going to war for sure, and that'll like make sure that it would be very dumb of them to kill me, basically. And they even show like archers like waiting to shoot him, but he doesn't get shot. He knows basically he's protected because he knows that they know that if they kill him, all of Sparta's going to war, and it's going to be like a big fucking thing. So, because of this rejection, this last rejection, Xerxes sends his best warriors called the Immortals. And they have like these cool fucking face shields that look like screaming people or whatever.
Yeah.
And they get beat pretty bad. They are not really anything. And like they are actually killed by like the Arcadians coming up behind them. Like the Spartans always talk about the other Greeks like they're fucking losers or wimps or like barely warriors. And so they're like we'll let the Arcadians take on these guys or whatever. And even they like flank them and push them off the wall, like into the ocean. And so like yeah, it was basically the only way that this could have worked out badly for Leonidas is because he was, we'll say, mean to the hunchback, or he wouldn't let him fight. And so the hunchback gets in his mind and he's like, like you said, fuck Spartans then, fuck my mom and dad, I hate all of you. And so yeah, he goes to work for Leonidas and shows him the path, which leads to them being able to get flanked by
or work against Leonidas.
Is that what I said?
You said work for it.
Work against. Sorry, Leonidas working for Xerxes. Is what I meant to say. So he goes to work for Xerxes, and that's where you see the other two women in this comic. They're like naked. They're kind of like in shadows, but they're like naked, dancing around him, and he looks all like nervous and like boobies or whatever. And he's like, we will give you women and gold and everything. He's like, I just want a uniform, And so,
please, sir.
Yeah, please. And so that's what he's given, and he like says he tells him about the goat path that he was trying to warn Leonidas of earlier. And so basically, this comic's only like 3 days long of the fighting, and before, like they know, the Spartans get word, hey, the goat path, we've been betrayed. The goat path is known. And Leonidas is like, hunchback or whatever. Not quite, but like he's like, man, I knew it was that dude or whatever. And so they're like, basically Leonidas is like, all right, all you pussies leave. Like you go prepare for war elsewhere. We'll hold the gates or whatever. We'll fight them off. Yeah. And then the only person that is allowed to leave that's a Spartan or that wants to leave. No, he doesn't want to leave, but he's told to leave.
Well, you could tell, like I guess he got a little injured too.
Yeah, well, that's right. He lost his eye, and then he even said that in the movie too. He's like, the gods granted me two, so I'm able to have, one gone and no problem. So yeah, but Dilios is the man who lost an eye, but he's also the storyteller, and he's the guy that's actually been narrating this whole thing. You didn't know that until like he leaves right now, but like he goes to tell the story. And then you think Leonidas might be, telling the story the whole time, but it's not. It's because we find out, like, this is Leonidas' last stand. Yep. He knows it. Everybody knows it. And so we get, like...
These shots are cool, where it's like you see the Persian army coming up now, and it's all through Leonidas' eyes. Like, you're looking through his... helmet, and they're very cool.
I like this. This is like in the 5th issue. He did some creative stuff where like they're getting surrounded and flanked, and you see like I guess it was like a creative way to show, because you see like the look as if the POV, I guess, the point of view look through their helmet, the Spartan helmet, so you get like the cutout of the eyelets or eye holes or whatever in their helmet, and then it shows Leonidas looking as if a camera's looking at his eyes So you get like, okay, this is from his point of view or whatever. And so he sees like, oh, we're outnumbered or whatever, but he's like, fuck that. We're going out like badasses. And so it even cuts back to like when he was a kid facing the wolf. He's like, just like that wolf. Like, I was ready to die then, and then I'm ready to die now or whatever. And so he they turtle up like they do, and the turtle porcupine go or whatever. Like, and so they turtle up and put their spears out, and then they just go crazy. And there's like the last hoorah. It's like they open their little turtle, and he's like, "Hey Xerxes, I got this spear for you," and he throws the spear at Xerxes. And which opens everybody up.
It does, but it was kind of badass too, because like, so like he kind of has a fake out because he kind of goes to like kneel or whatever for a sec.
Yeah.
And then when he throws the spear at Xerxes, Xerxes doesn't move, like he's steadfast and stands still.
Yeah.
But it catches him because he's very close with his aim, I guess. He's a little further away, and it like cuts into his face.
Yeah.
It makes him like, and it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe he's not a god. He's bleeding. He's showing,
Exactly. I think he did that. Either he missed on purpose just to show his people like he's not a god, or whatever, or like, or just he missed on because it's like the moment he's about to die or whatever. But like, they show like the Spartans don't really miss, but as he's throwing, just all the rain of arrows comes down and kills him, and but he does cut Xerxes on the face, and then they all die. so they just get shot with arrows, and then it's like where they're left. And then that's where we find out, right? Like it cuts to Delios telling all of Sparta and all of Greece this story of the 300 at the hot gates at Thermopylae. And, he's telling all this badass.
To rally the rest of the country or the rest of the states.
Yes. And it's like the last, basically that's what happens is, it rallies the rest of the states, and then the Spartans are like leading the charge for all the other armies, and it's like all of Sparta and all of them in battle at once. And it's like the last page is like the Spartans running into this new battle for all of Greece with all the Grecians, all as one.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, they win. And so,
spoiler alert,
they win.
Spoiler alert, they win.
So yeah, and
which brings us to another movie. This one with Brad Pitt. And
wait, what?
I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Just another one. That's gonna be all oily men, and some artist guys over there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, what'd you think about this one, John? Like overall,
I liked it. Like I said, like as I was reading, it was like, oh man, like I remember some of these panels. Like I feel like shot for shot for a movie or from the movie. So I was like, oh wow, like this is probably.
I mean, go ahead,
Hookah Man, and Knives for Arms, that guy. But minus them, it was. I was just more like, wow, like that just goes to show you how beautiful the art is in this. They were like, they want to take it directly from the page, like,
right?
Exactly.
And like we were saying, the art in this is muted. It felt a lot like the Dark Knight Returns art, where it's like muted, watercolory. Lynn Varley did like an amazing job on this, even though it's a lot more like with Dark Knight. I mean, this is literally like blood and fighting. Like there's like no other moments where like anything else is going on. It's just fighting, talking, fighting, bloodiness, fighting, so
a wall of dead bodies.
She did a great job, like, making it look beautiful, and like the colors palette is just like nice tones, like sunny tones in the daytime and bluish tones in the night. And then like you get like the inked out figures from Frank Miller, and like it like really recalled back to Dark Knight Returns. And I think maybe that's why this is like one of those books that people talk about, like that, like people talk about it like it's early Frank Miller, but it's actually not. Like they will bring up this and say like, oh yeah, 300 is great, of course, but then after that it's just like shit or whatever. And I don't agree with them personally, but other people other people have other opinions on that, I guess. But like I said, me and John both read them all. I mean, I think you like you recognize the difference, but you don't like hate his new art style, right?
No, not at all. And like you said, like I liked I liked the next two. It was really just the gold, not the golden child.
The golden
Yeah,
child.
golden child. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I was thinking Eddie Murphy too. Not the golden child.
Golden child.
But yeah, like I enjoyed them, and the series as a whole, I thought it was fantastic. And
Yeah.
so going to this, like no, 300 was spectacular. Like the art is spot on. The story, I mean, like literally lines that I thought you thought were
movie
written for movie
yeah.
lines. No, that was just Frank Miller writing some badass lines for the
Yeah.
characters in the story. So
Yeah, I like that.
and you know, I like that we got, you know, if you dive in a little bit in the back, you could see like where he got his sources for pulling his material from.
Yeah, that was nice that he like it wasn't just him like making up a story. Like I think the only thing he made up because no one knows why is Hunchback.
Yeah.
They don't know how the Persians found out about that goat path or whatever, but he was just like, okay, I'll just create a character to have that as like the foil or whatever.
Which is fine. I mean, you got to have a little bit of
Yeah, it's
those
comic, it's fiction,
thematic elements. So
a little bit of fiction, you know, throw that in there. But yeah, I mean, like, so what would you give this one, John?
I mean, so I'm thinking on it, and again, the art and everything with it, and I mean, it's super enjoyable. It's fast. It's action packed. It's very very bloody.
Yeah.
I would probably give it a 9. Honestly, it is
I'm giving this one a 9 as well.
Yeah, it is a damn good comic.
You know, thinking about it, like I said, I've never read a comic like this. I don't think there's ever been a comic that's been like all double page spreads. It's really well done.
Super
The art is fucking amazing. It's like Frank Miller at his best and Lynn Varney at her best, and then you get like a cool story that's based in history that's told in a Frank Miller way with like his like cool narration and everything. Really cool design work on the Persians look badass. The Spartans look badass. I mean, this this is like perfect for like a kid who wants to read. You know, it's not super bloody. I mean, there's blood in it, but it's kind of like, you know, hyperbolic or whatever, or it's just like splashes on the page. It's not like you're not seeing like intestines and gore and stuff. So,
No, like even when they cut off that one guy's arm, like
you just see the arm flying.
Yeah, the arm flying, and
like,
it's all shadows and black. So
Yeah.
it's really not like
you're not seeing like hostile level violence.
And when you see the bodies piled, there's still like there's like smokiness and like grays and
Yeah.
So it's not like crazy vivid. Like people die. And
Yeah.
There's
it's war.
Yeah, it's war, but it's not as like grotesque.
Right. But
as
if
it
I had
could
picked
be.
this book up in 1998 and read it, I
When
would
you
be
were-
like, holy fuck.
This is so good.
Yeah, this is so badass. So I get why like this won awards and why this is like it. I mean, the only reason why I didn't feel like that the first time I read it was because I'd seen the movie. The movie spoils the comic. So if you haven't seen the movie, go read this comic first and be like, wow, that was fucking awesome. And then go watch the movie and be like, wow, they did a really good job at adapting this comic into a movie. Almost too good, except go ahead, Hookman.
Go ahead, Hookman.
But yeah.
But yeah.
Other than that, I mean, I would totally recommend this to like anybody. And you know, like I said, it is definitely for nowadays. It's more like Western influenced history wise. But you know, if you know that going into it and you're okay with that, check it out. You know, like, I think you'll like it if you're a history person too, because you get to see like what this comic book guy who likes some, you know, history obviously because he researched it, you know, made his interpretation of this whole thing or whatever. So, and not only that, but it kind of brought like all that history back into pop culture for a while too. Like in the 2000s, people were all talking about the hot gates and Thermopylae and everything because of 300, I think, coming out.
That's why I was joking about it in a movie because like there were several other movies.
Oh, like Troy.
Troy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Troy was what I was thinking of, and then there's just lots of like that kind of time frame of like great battles of like
right
of semi kind of real history. Like,
right.
There's obviously the Hollywood elements of it, but yeah.
So yeah, John gives it a 9. I gave it a 9. I think that's like one of our highest rated books together. So,
so.
so yeah. On that note, next week, like I said, we're reading Xerxes, which is the sequel to this that came out last year.
Yeah,
2019.
I'm cool. I'm super excited about it because reading this, I was like, yeah, that was really badass. And I've never read this.
Neither of us have read this.
So yeah, it'll be fun.
This will be interesting. I kind of sneak peeked just to see what the art looked like, to see if it was the same. It is not colored by Lynn Varley, so it looks different than that. It looks digital, more digital color, so it should be interesting. The art itself, though, looked a lot more like this from Frank Miller. Like the design of the characters looked a little bit more like old Frank Miller to me, at least on the first 2 pages that I saw.
That's interesting. Okay, well, I'll be curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about on that one. So, if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget to check out our YouTube for exclusive content. We've got an unboxing coming up here pretty soon that I'm pretty excited about. And we've also got our Twitter and Instagram. So make sure to check us out, follow us, subscribe, and I guess we'll see you on the next one.
Bye. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.